It's Tuesday. We're sitting out here in Hershey, right outside of Chocolate World right now. We were up for the morning skate this morning. Brought up your younger brother. We had a good time. Went for lunch, and now we're sort of waiting here for the game tonight.
Against Providence.
Yeah, it's a nice day out here in Hershey too. So can't complain about that. But we'll keep going with our normal format, so we're going to talk about the week that was. Bears had a 2-game trip out in Cleveland. Started off Friday with a 6-3 win, and then they had a 5-0 win on Saturday. Just a really good performance by the team out in Cleveland against a very good hockey team. What did you take from the performance, Joe?
See, I didn't watch the Cleveland game on Friday when they 6-3, but when I looked at it, 6-3, that's a big win against Cleveland. And 6 goals for the Bears. Offense was definitely there on their side. And then the game after that, on Saturday, I did watch when they 5-0 shutout. I think Shepard was on goal that game. Was it Shepard?
Yeah.
Did a good job, got his shutout. He has a lot of shutouts this year, but overall, offense was there for 2 games, defense was there for 2 games, puck control was good, so there's nothing really I can complain about.
Yeah, I thought the first game was really interesting. It was 1-1 early, and then Hofer got in that fight.
Yeah.
And he's a guy, I think, coming into the game, he had like 2 penalty minutes all season. So he's not one that typically either gets penalties or is really involved in those things. And I heard someone ask him, too, after the morning skate, talking about the fight. He's like, wanted to get the boys fired up. Yeah. And it did. A little over a minute 14 after the fight, Dubé scores.
Yep.
A minute 20 after that, Frankie scores. Coming out of the second period, Huntington scores in there. All of a sudden, it's a 1-1 game. Now it's 4-1.
Yeah.
That kind of lit the spark in them. And, it's nice to see it from a guy like Hofer, really working those guys in there, getting them fired up there. So, that was good to see. And then even the late goal by Rybinski there to restore the lead after Cleveland pushed to get back into it. And Trinyaev with the empty netter, that was nice too to see.
That was nice.
So that was a good performance by the boys on Friday night. And then looking at Saturday, it was 1-0 going into the third. And then all of a sudden they just popped through with 4 goals unanswered in that third period. Stromer got it started. He's on a bit of a streak right now too.
He is.
And then 9:35 into the third, Frankie scores, and then Limoges 35 seconds later. They just kept lighting the lamp there in the third period. And, it's good to see with, again, against a very good team that they just did not let up.
No. And the Bears, it just seems to me when the Bears have a lane open and they see it, they take that shot. And that's what I think, screening the goalie during both those games actually played off a lot with goals. When you have a lane open, and this goes for any team, just not the Bears, when you have a lane open, you want to take that chance. 50 out of 50, it might go in, 50 out of 50, it might block and go in, or it might just not miss it, make it, but you want to take a shot every time you have an open lane.
Yeah, I thought it was really promising, too, because, again, you looked at what happened before that with, even up in Washington, with Wilson getting suspended and then pulling Phillips up. You're like, oh, here we go again. Yeah. We're getting, gutted a little bit, and the boys responded big time this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, you could have taken those 2 points if it was against anybody, but to go up there to a team that's contending and go and punch them in the mouth, 6-3, 5-0 in their building, especially after last weekend's, the previous weekend's dominating 4-1 win against Syracuse, 4-0 against Hartford. You look at the last 4 results, 4 straight wins, 4-1, 4-0, 6-3, 5-0 against all teams that are right now in the playoffs. It's got to make you feel good.
It definitely does, and the Bears, they can come back from if they're down 1-0, 2-0, they'll always find a way to come back, and that just shows how much it's not. They have skill. The Bears have skill, and that skill does pay off sometimes.
Yeah, and all Bears fans were Syracuse Crunch fans on Sunday, because there was that off chance that tonight's game could have been for the division title.
Yeah.
To clinch it. But unfortunately, Syracuse
lost.
They won.
They won, yeah.
They did it in overtime, or I can't remember which it was. But it allowed Providence to get a point, so Hershey's magic number is still coming into this game at 5.
Yeah.
So with a win in regulation, it drops that number to 1. But at this point, barring anything unforeseen, Hershey should wrap up the division at some point, maybe even as early as this weekend. I say should because you don't want to end up cursing it. But,
no.
The way they're playing right now, you got to feel good about it.
Oh, yeah.
Earlier in the month, when they dropped their first 4 of 5 this month, against, 2 against the Comets, against the Phantoms, Charlotte, it wasn't looking great. It was looking like, okay, they're in this sort of slump. They're really getting impacted by all the injuries, the call-ups, that March slump. They've really turned it on the last 2 weeks.
They did. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Tonight, like you said, Hartford, they got to show up big time. Tonight's not Hartford. What the?
Yeah, you're
tonight,
good.
Providence. Sorry, mixed up. But
you're looking ahead to Saturday.
Yeah. Providence tonight. Providence is a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Really good team. I mean, they have to come in ready. That's just how it is. They have to come in ready tonight because they're playing a good team.
Yeah, it's the last time we're going to see Providence in the regular season. And Saturday going to Hartford. Last time we're going to see Hartford. So there's a lot at store tonight. We're going to take a look at that when we get back from this short break. Thanks for listening to Lacing the Skates, a Hershey Bears podcast. Bears podcast, and we're entering into our second podcast segment here, and it's called The Week Ahead. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about tonight's game with Providence and Saturday's game with the Wolfpack, and I guess we can even touch on next Tuesday's game with the Phantoms. So, we've got 2 games coming up this direct week and 1 a week from today. Again, tonight's a big one. It can pretty much, a win in regulation all but secures the division title. What's kind of your expectations for tonight? Of course, with Mike Vecchione bobblehead night too.
See, tonight I feel like if the Bears play good puck control, if they play defense, offense, good, offense on the puck, which they need to do, if they're doing everything that they are supposed to do tonight to keep Providence down by 1 goal, or heck, even maybe a shutout, then that's what they need to do. Mm-hmm. The Bears are really good with puck control. We've seen it a lot of times. Puck control is a big thing when you're playing a game. Depends on, it doesn't matter who you're playing, good or bad. If you have good puck control, you're gonna take that chance of maybe securing a win or maybe losing. But I feel like tonight the Bears can beat Providence, but if they keep making mental mistakes, or if they make a mental mistake and they, it's all about mental wise tonight, because Providence overall is a good team. They had a lot of players there are big. They play defense wise. They play really good. So the Bears need to be consistent on the physical game and the offensive game, and that's what's gonna impact tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they've played Providence very well at home so far this year. So that's promising.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just curious who gets the starting goal tonight. They've kind of been alternating both Shepard and Stevenson.
I think Stevenson's going to be tonight.
Yeah.
Stevenson's going to be in goal tonight.
Yeah, I think so. If they continue with the rotation, that would make sense. I think it's going to be interesting when you get to the postseason.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult to win with a rotation.
It is.
Granted, you don't have a rotation as strong as Hershey's does. And we looked at the stats earlier today.
Yeah, we did.
You've got the number 1 and number 2 in goals against. You've got 2 of the top 7 in wins, period. Period. Not as a tandem, period. And that's insane to even think about. I think you have number 1 and number 3 in save percentage. You have number 1 and number 6 in shutouts. It's unheard of what the 2 of them are doing this year.
They're good. I think the difference between both of them is that playoffs, Shepard has more experience in the playoffs.
Well, yeah.
Stevenson doesn't. But again, Stevenson, this is his first year on the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably see what, during the playoffs, we'll see if how Stevenson does. But Shepard has the experience over Stevenson in playoff terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so I'm really interested to see what they do with that. If they continue to ride the rotation, if they decide, we're going to take one guy and he's going to be our guy during this playoff run. Who's going to grab that bull by the horns the rest of the way if that's what they choose? That'll be the interesting part of it.
Most likely I would probably be Shepard just because he has that experience.
Yeah, and I can't exactly fault them. I wouldn't fault them if they went Stevenson. I also wouldn't fault, Nelly if he decided to keep the rotation going, so.
Because it's going good.
Yeah, and not too many teams have this luxury and whatnot.
No.
Yeah, so we also have Saturday going to the Wolfpack. That should be a good game as well. It's always, this year at least, when they played Hartford, those have been very, very competitive games.
They have.
They've really tested the Bears this year. So
Hartford's one of those teams too that are defensively dangerous.
Yeah, well, they're a very physical team.
They are.
They played the Bears very physically in all the games this year. I still remember that game in Hershey in January, where when Rempe was still down there. Now he's up in New York, causing all sorts of havoc up there. But I remember we looked at the roster, we're like, wait, they have 4 players that are 6'6" or taller?
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
nuts. And even still now they have several guys that are 6'6" or taller. They have size, they have physicality. Yeah. They're built for playoff hockey.
They are.
And even I look at last weekend's game. Yeah, the Bears might have won 4-0, but that was a very physical hockey game. It was a physical hockey game, and some of those situations bring out the best in the Bears. Some of them bring out the worst.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really curious how the Bears respond up there in Hartford to the physicality of the play. So that's kind of what I'm looking for from that game is how do the Bears respond to the physicality? Do they get into this?
They need to stay in their heads, play clean hockey, mentally and physically. But of course, penalties are going to be jawed. Not every game is going to be clean.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you look at them and you're like, oh, they're just seeing red.
They are, and that's true.
Sometimes they respond to that, take advantage on the power plays, or do they take dumb penalties? And, that's sometimes when you get that physical hockey, which team responds? How do they respond? And
the Bears on the power play are pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and their penalty kill is very good too. So, special teams?
Shootout-wise, this year, they haven't been good.
They haven't needed.
No, they have not, and that's crazy.
They haven't needed to get there either.
They haven't, no.
That was interesting. I just looked up and watched one of the roller coasters tests. So it's very interesting out here today. They're laying mulch in a lot of areas, so you have that fresh mulch smell.
Yep.
You have the roller coasters testing now too. So yeah, it's definitely spring here in Hershey.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful day. We got an excellent week of hockey ahead, and we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to take you around the hockey world. You're listening to Lacing the Skates, a Hershey Bears podcast. Welcome back to Lacing the Skates, a Hershey Bears podcast, and we're going to enter into our final segment around the hockey league. So we're going to touch quick on the AHL. What are some... We had 2 teams recently also clinch playoff berths. Coachella Valley and Milwaukee. And I think it's interesting because we talked about Milwaukee there for a little while, you and I.
Yeah. Their goalie is so good.
Yeah, he's solid.
He is solid.
But I also made this observation with you. I said if you take out that 19-game winning streak, they are at this point they are 21, 19, 1-0.
Yeah.
They are about a 500 hockey team without that 19-game win streak.
That's crazy.
That's taking nothing away from that hockey team because that's a good hockey team.
Yeah, it is.
But what are they without that? How good are they?
See,
are they a 500 hockey team or are they closer to where they're at right now, which is a 675 clip? I don't know. It's tough to tell.
It is.
I'm not saying they're not a good team because they are absolutely a good team. And Coachella Valley, after a slow start, they're really cooking right now.
Oh, they are.
So you got 3 teams that have clinched playoff berths at this point. There's a couple teams that are real close, that are inching ever closer. So what are some observations you've had about the league as a whole right now?
Well, let's talk about Coachella Valley. Kraken don't make it to the playoffs. Kraken's probably going to send the core down.
See, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
See, I think so. Because last year they did. Kraken didn't make the playoffs. Or they might have made the playoffs.
Yeah, they did. They were conference semifinalists.
Yeah. So, they sent Joey DeCour down to...
Well, he was down there all year.
Coachella, yeah. But... I don't know. Coachella Valley, like you said, clinch playoff berth. It's just to see what they do. Milwaukee, their goalie's pretty good, and not just the Milwaukee Admirals, but their NHL affiliate. The Predators. If the Predators, call up, I forgot his name, the goalie for Milwaukee. But
oh yeah,
I can't remember. I'm blanking. But the Predators have a good goaltender. Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
If they call him up, they have a good goaltender. For whenever, like a next season.
Mm-hmm.
If the Predators decide to bring the goalie up from Milwaukee, I'm sorry, but I'm blanking on his name. It's just a good look for the Predators in goaltending because the goalie for the Milwaukee Admirals. He had to save one game. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, that was nuts.
That was nuts. Like how can you stretch your arm that far? So Predators have really good, they're really good looking for a goaltender next season, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking at magic numbers now, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that magic numbers are below 5. They are Providence, Grand Rapids, and then Tucson, Colorado, and Ontario.
Yep.
So you got several teams that are very close to clinching. You also have a couple other teams under 10 as well, including Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Syracuse, and then you have 3 other teams in the Pacific: Bakersfield, Calgary, and Abbotsford.
Yep.
But once you get below Abbotsford there in the Pacific, the other 3 teams are not very good.
No.
And they have 7 that make it. So, the Pacific's all but figured out who their 7 playoff teams are. It's just, matter of what the order is. But the crazy thing, too, is when we look at it, Bears are 5 away from clinching their division. The next closest team is Syracuse, 14. Their magic number is 14 for their division.
Yeah.
Bears' magic number for the best record is 13. So with 10 games remaining, 13 points out of the 10 games, they'll clinch home ice the rest of the way. So it's very likely.
Yeah. So how do you look at that? Will Miro come down?
You can't guarantee any of that right now, especially with Washington currently being in a playoff spot.
Yeah, and Miro's playing good up there. Miroshenko for the Bears. Mm-hmm. He's playing good in Washington right now. So, if anything, it's hard to say. Because Washington right now is doing good. Like you said, they are doing good. You know, the Penguins, me and you were talking about this earlier. They lost to Colorado, I think it was 4-5 in overtime. Which, like you said, if they don't get a first round, and they have to lose to get first round, which I would take that too. Yeah. I would take Pittsburgh losing.
Well,
just
and
to get
some of
first
that's
round.
with we've moved on a little bit to the NHL at this point. But what we're talking about is the Penguins pick that has the potential to end up, I believe, in San Jose from the Carlson trade. There is some conditions on it, and it's protected if it's inside the top 10. Right now, they are the 9th worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And with the lottery, you never know how that goes.
No.
You know, and then there's such a log jam in that area of the standings, so you never know what can happen when it gets to the lottery. If they lose a few more games, end up in that 7th, 8th worst team spot, the odds are more in their favor to keep that pick.
Yes.
And as we're both Penguins fans too, I know some people are like, oh, you like the Bears, but you don't like the Capitals? No, we're Penguins fans and Bears fans.
Yes.
There's a lot of that, but I digress in some of that.
Yeah.
You know, the thing with that is, if you're a Penguins fan at this point, the worst thing that can happen is when the lottery happens and you see your team in the 11th spot.
Yes.
Because then what was the purpose of trading Gensel? What was the purpose of some of these moves? You know, you would have just been better off keeping them, finishing one short and whatever. Now, that conversation changes, of course, if Carolina goes on a run and makes it, and all of a sudden your pick from them moves from a second to a first rounder. That then changes things. But at the same time, is it better to have that 8th or 9th pick and then another first rounder rather than just one first rounder, or even the possibility of only a second rounder? You know, there's a lot at stake there for it. You know, and even if we flip to the Capitals side, their trade deadline moves and the subsequent play of the team has been absolutely phenomenal for them. They loaded up on picks. They are loaded with draft picks, and they're still competitive right now. And a lot of that is, you know, people have called them the Washington Bears.
Yeah.
You know, because they're getting contributions from LaPierre has been absolutely fantastic for them in his most recent call-up. You know, they're getting the contributions from Miro. Scarbs, when he's played, has been good. He hasn't played much recently because they've gotten healthier. But when he has played up there, he's been very good for them.
He has. Yes,
you know, just seeing the way McMichael has been playing, Protas, some of those younger guys, the way they've really been playing for Carberry and the team up in Washington.
Yeah.
You know, it brings a lot of Bears fans back to when these guys were just doing it last year, leading the Bears to the Calder Cup, and now they're helping Washington, who was perfectly fine with trading some guys away to get draft picks. They're pushing them towards the playoffs.
Yeah, they are.
You know, right now they're sitting in a playoff spot.
And that's pretty good.
And it's the youth leading the way. Granted, Ovi's had a bit of a trip to the fountain of youth or something. You know, people were counting him out the last couple of years to pass Gretzky in goals. Now it almost looks like a formality that he's going to.
I think he will.
Yeah, it sure seems that way at this point. You know, so there's a lot of interesting things going on in the NHL, in the AHL. You know, but we still got a couple weeks of hockey left in the regular season to shake things out, you know, see how things go.
Yes, we do.
You know, what other observations have you gotten around either the AHL or the NHL at this point?
That's mostly ones I looked at is Penguins. You know, there's nothing really much to say about the other worst teams because, I mean, Chicago's not that good.
No.
San Jose's not that good. But, you know, when it comes towards playoffs, we have a much more better look at what other teams have in store.
Yeah, I think the races in both conferences at this point are looking very intriguing. It doesn't look like last year where when Boston was running away with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at even the race right now for the best record. you've got 2 teams with 98 points, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with 97 points. That's a lot of good teams near the top.
That is.
You know, and I think it's fantastic for the game right now that you have a lot of very good teams that are battling at the top, and it's going to make this a very exciting playoff season.
It will be.
You know, at least in the NHL. I'm also very excited for the AHL playoffs because, you know, would love to see the Bears go back, repeat, and everything.
Yes.
But anything can happen.
Yes,
I mean, look what happened with Providence last year. They flamed down in the first round. You know, anything can happen. You know, I'm looking forward to a run again, hopefully by the Bears, but you have to think anything can happen.
Yes, it can.
So,
anything.
Anything else you got to add for the show today?
No, sir. I think that's everything. Thanks for listening to Lacing the Skates podcast. I'm Joey.
Yep, and I'm Andy. Thanks for listening to Lacing the Skates podcast. This is episode number 2. Hope to catch you again later. See ya.
See you guys.